Okay,
Okay, wait, hold on.
day 2.
Oh, we're not doing picture.
Now we're doing video. We're gonna take a little cruise down to the tower and then do the Tower of London. And there is Big Ben. Oh, you can't see the clock, hon. You can't see part of it right up there.
Oh, yeah.
But they're resurfacing it, unfortunately. Another beautiful day here. It was 84 yesterday here. 29.1 degrees Celsius. Hottest day in April in 70 years, they said. It felt just like summer. People were out in the park in masses, really enjoying the weather. It's supposed to be a little cooler today, but it's gonna be nice. So how you been enjoying the trip?
It's been great.
So far so good.
So far. Second favorite city next to Rome.
Breakfast was awesome too.
Very
Just ask a member of staff and they'll be more than happy to get one for you.
That's it.
Now it's a very hot day today, as I'm sure you're all aware, so make sure you're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water while you're out on the top deck with us today. And until we leave Waterloo Pier, just sit back, relax, kick your shoes and socks off, get nice and comfy, and I'll get back to you very, very shortly. We're just going to make a quick stop alongside the London Eye to pick up a few more passengers. Now, on the way down towards the tower, we do have a commentary. But for all you non-English speaking passengers, we do have audio guides on board, so they'll provide you a guide in your preferred language, whether that be French, Italian, German, Chinese, etc., etc. We cater for almost everybody on board. And you can get them from down below, just by the bar. They're free of charge. Just ask a member of staff and they'll be more than happy to get one for you.
That's it.
Now it's a very hot day today, as I'm sure you're all aware, so make sure you're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water while you're out on the top deck with us today. And until we leave Waterloo Pier, just sit back, relax, kick your shoes and socks off, get nice and comfy, and I'll get back to you very, very shortly. We're just going to make a quick stop alongside the London Eye to pick up a few more passengers. Now, on the way down towards the tower, we do have a commentary. But for all you non-English speaking passengers, we do have audio guides on board, so they'll provide you a guide in your preferred language, whether that be French, Italian, German, Chinese, etc., etc. We cater for almost everybody on board. And you can get them from down below, just by the bar. They're free of charge. Just ask a member of staff and they'll be more than happy to get one for you.
That's it.
Now it's a very hot day today, as I'm sure you're all aware, so make sure you're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water while you're out on the top deck with us today. And until we leave Waterloo Pier, just sit back, relax, kick your shoes and socks off, get nice and comfy, and I'll get back to you very, very shortly. Just to have 7 arches. And that's the most arches of any of the bridges you're going to see on the river today. And this is due to the riverbeds being made of a very fine sandstone at this point, and they just had to spread the weight over the more arches. The colour green that it's painted is the same colour as the chairs in the Houses of Commons. Not the same colour as the River Thames, which some people seem to think that it is. Now, the Houses of Parliament, just on our left, its official name is the Palace of Westminster. Going right the way around the palace, just in between the first and second floor windows, you have the Lord's Prayer inscribed in Latin. And that was placed there to scare off evil spirits. But it hasn't quite worked, sadly. They still go there every day, still make our lives a nutter misery. And we just left Waterloo here for the London Eye, one of London's biggest tourist attractions. Now, it was placed there during the year of the millennium and was only actually scheduled to last for 5 years. However, 18 years later, it is still here and it is still spinning. And the reason for this is, well, the reason for most things in London, I'm afraid. You see, it's all to do with money. In one single day, the London Eye has been known to make up to £250,000. So we are all thinking of changing its name to the Wheel of Fortune. There are 32 of those glass pods surrounding it, and that number represents the 32 boroughs of Greater London. But if you went on there today, you may find yourself on pod number 33, and that's because they left out the unlucky number 30. Now, just ahead of us, we have the Charing Cross Railway Bridge. Now, take a quick look to the right of the bridge, and you'll see a red stone abutment, and notice how far away it is from the river wall. And then, if you take a look to your left, you can see an identical red stone abutment that is actually incorporated into the river wall. Now, it never used to be. It was relatively the same distance away from the embankment as the one on the right is. But that should give you an idea of how much of the river we've lost over the years. It used to be a lot wider and is nowadays a lot more narrower. Now, feel free to smile and wave at any of these lovely people on the footpaths there, if there are any. We don't do it to be overly nice, we just do it to keep their hands busy, you see. Stop someone from potentially throwing anything at us. And as you're going underneath the National Rail, you're also going over the Bakerloo and the Northern Line. And they're about 60 metres underground, and they go in between Waterloo Station across to Embankment. But on your right, you have the Royal Festival Hall, placed there after the Second World War as a morale booster. And over the years, we've had many famous stars perform there, like the magnificent Michael Jackson, who is sadly no longer with us, the unforgettable Frank Sinatra, who again is sadly no longer with us, and the sublime Pavarotti, again sadly no longer with us. So I'm just waiting for the Justin Bieber concert to take place there, and I shall be a very happy man. Now, the bridge we're soon about to go underneath is the Waterloo Road Bridge. However, it is more affectionately known to us on the river as the Ladies' Bridge. And we call it this because when it had to be reconstructed during the Second World War, while most of the men were away fighting, the labouring force for this bridge was 80% made up of women. Now, ladies, take pride in the fact that when you constructed this bridge, it would have been one of the longest to span the river. It's over a quarter of a mile long. And to this day, it's one of the only bridges that was completed on time and under budget. So well done, ladies. You have quite an ugly looking grey building with the electronic lighting. Now, unfortunately, this is our National Theatre, but I do have permission to call this an ugly building, as it has been voted by London's leading architects as one of the city's ugliest riverside buildings, for 10 years in a row, no less. Even Prince Charles himself has got on board this notion by saying it is one of the ugliest things he'd seen in his life. And I think we can all agree and say that man knows quite a bit about ugly things. Speaking though of the buildings, of course, also coming up on your right hand side, you're going to see a rather large white building with some rather big black windows. And this is the ITV television studios, and that's where they film all your favourite TV programmes like The X Factor, The Jeremy Kyle Show, Take Me Out, and even This Morning. Well, that's no longer true. Last week, the programme This Morning changed their location after about 20 years while they refurbish some of the studio. But over on your left you have the brass lion's heads going all the way up the embankment wall. And as well as being old moorings for ships, they are also an old flood warning indicator. And they were put there by the Victorians, and they told the river police that if the Thames should ever reach the lions' mouths, they should evacuate the London Underground and all the surrounding buildings. Now the police had a few little rhymes to help them remember this. Please feel free to join in if you catch on. They go like this. When the lions are drinking, London is sinking. And when the river reaches the lion's mane, London is down the drain. Now there was another one that us watermen invented. It's slightly less known, but it goes like this. When the lion's heads are completely ducked, then the city of London is utterly flooded. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it as the first two did, but then again us watermen can't rhyme very well. Now we're about to go underneath the Blackfriars Road Bridge. But just next to it you can see some red pillars, and these are what remain of the older St Paul's Railway Bridge. Had to be replaced with the more modern Blackfriars Railway Bridge just ahead of us, due to the modern trains bearing more weight. Now the engineers were certain that if they tried to remove these footings of the older bridge, it would disturb the foundations of the two bridges either side. So these remain here to this day as a memorial to the older St Paul's Railway Bridge. But speaking of St Paul's, just over to your left, you have a lovely view of the top of the dome of St Paul's Cathedral. Now, St Paul's is considered by many to be Sir Christopher Wren's greatest masterpiece. It took an astonishing 35 years to complete, and is the second tallest freestanding dome anywhere in the world. Second only to St Peter's in the Vatican City. It is exactly 365 feet tall. Easy to remember, that's 1 foot for every day of the year. And if you squint hard enough, you can just about see a few bodies on top of the dome of St Paul's. And that's because there is a viewing platform up there, and it's called the Golden Gallery. But let me just warn you folks, if you are thinking of going to the gallery, there are over 500 steps to get you to the top. But I hear once you do get up there, the views are quite spectacular. Those people up there now, they started their journey last night, and they just made it up there this morning. Now over on your left, you've got this convenient square section of land that hasn't been built upon, and there's a good reason for this. It is considered sacred ground, and it is known as the Queen Hive Dock. And that's actually where the Romans first stepped foot on land many years ago when they sailed up the River Thames and named this land Londinium, in the name of Rome. Now take a quick note at some of the traffic on top of the next bridge. We've got buses, articulate lorries, coaches, a van I can see. Basically there's a bunch of professional drivers. Now the only reason this bridge exists in the first place is to help ease congestion in the City of London. However, due to the poorly planned approach roads, one-way streets and back street turns, hardly anyone knows how to get to it. And it is officially one of London's least used bridges. And it's mainly used by professional drivers. Just on your right, you have the Anchor pub with the red windows. One of the oldest pubs here we have in London. There's been an Anchor pub on that site since the 16th century. So we highly recommend you take the time to go visit there. Hand sides, just in that small dockyard, you have a model pirate ship. Now, it's not just any old model ship. This is actually a full working replica of Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hinds. And he's one of the first Englishmen to navigate around the world, and he did so with about 80 crewmen. And that working replica has actually been around the world twice, using the same course that Sir Francis Drake took. We're now just about to pass underneath the famous London Bridge. Now, you may have heard of it before in a song called London Bridge is Falling Down, and that may have something to do with the fact that this is the 5th London Bridge that has stood here in over 2,000 years. The very first one was built by the Romans, and they made it out of wood, so sadly that one burnt down. And the last bridge was actually sinking into the mud, so our government sold it to an American chap called Robert McCullen. And it was taken down stone by stone, boxed up, shipped over to America, where it was reassembled over a Lake Havasu in the Arizona desert, where it still stands today. Over on your left-hand side now, you have a yellow bricked building with the golden fish on top. Now, this is the old Billingsgate Fish Market. Now, the new market is located near Canary Wharf, a financial district. But before it was moved, there was a fish market on that site for over 500 years. Sadly, the only fish you'll see over there these days are the weather vanes on top of the roof. And there was a young man that used to work over there who later on became quite a famous actor. He's nowadays known as Sir Michael Caine. But as a young boy, he worked just over there in the old fish market. Now folks, I'll quickly mention we've got Tower Bridge ahead of us, and we know everyone wants to get a photo of Tower Bridge. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a bit closer, and we make a slow turn to the left-hand side, so we'll have a lovely view of Tower Bridge on our right. So just stay in your seats and we will get you a perfect Kodak moment. But before we get there, just on your right, you have the HMS Belfast, built in Belfast. Funnily enough, that's how it gets its name, in the Harland and Wolff shipyard in Northern Ireland. Now that's the same shipyard as the ill-fated Titanic. She first fired her guns in anger along the beaches of Normandy during the D-Day landings, and they were last fired during the Korean War campaign. But she was decommissioned in 1973, and she's been here ever since as a floating museum. On your left-hand side, folks, you have the Tower of London. One of the oldest sections is that square bit in the middle with the 4 towers. And that was built during the reign of William the Conqueror. But over the years, many different kings and queens have added their own sections to the tower. Now, some of them were doing it to keep people out, but most of the time they were doing it to keep people in. Over the years, it's been many different things, like a royal palace, a royal observatory, a royal mint, and even a royal zoo. We even kept an elephant inside there once. But it is best known for a place of torture and execution, and nowadays where we house the Queen's royal jewels. And as we turn the boat, folks, you have a lovely view of Tower Bridge. Now, if I could just ask, once you've done taking your photos of the bridge, if you could just sit back down in your seats, just to allow anyone behind you who's also trying to get a photograph, that would be very much appreciated, folks. Now, Tower Bridge is very unique as it is a combined suspension and bascule bridge. Bascule is a French word for seesaw. For insurance purposes, it is insured as a ship and therefore requires a captain, a mate, and an engineer to be on board at all times. There is just one single day of the entire year when Tower Bridge will not open. Does anybody have a clue what day this might be? I'll give you a hint. It's not New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. It's not Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And it isn't the Queen's birthday, before anyone says it. No ideas, anyone? I'll give you one more big clue, and I bet everyone gets it after this. It is happening this weekend.
Oh, for the marathon. The marathon.
Well done, sir. It is the day of the London Marathon, as part of the course does go over the bridge. Now, I think it would be quite amusing if they did open the bridge, just by a foot or two, just to make the race a little bit more interesting. I always get bored of race day after the first 5 minutes. And just on our left, folks, very lastly, you have the London Shard of Glass. London's tallest building. It's over 1,000 feet tall, has 95 floors, and is fully furnished with offices, apartments, restaurants and gyms, a 5-star Shangri-La hotel, and it even has its very own casino. It also has London's highest observation platform, and that's over 800 feet up. And it's about £20 for a child and about £25 for an adult. But for such a sky-high price, you do get a sky-high view to go with it. But as you can see, we're slowly going alongside Tower, where I'm sorry to say that marks the end of this part of our journey. Now, if you're going to leave us here, just remain in your seats until we're safely alongside the pier, as there may be a slight bump, and I don't want anybody hurting themselves. If you want to go to Greenwich, just stay in your seats, and as soon as we leave, this boat will go further down to Greenwich. If you want to go back to Westminster straight away, just alight here, get into row B, where this boat is right now, and the boats that... Now, over on your left-hand side, you'll see a funny group of flats, these 3 buildings here. Now, a lot of the buildings in London are designed by modern architects, trying to give London a bit more of a modern look. Now, these 3 buildings are meant to represent something, or should I say resemble something. Now, I'll give you a minute to have a look. See if you can work out what they look like to you. Well, they are meant to resemble a group of French soldiers marching. I think the slight tilt on the roof there is meant to look like a beret. Now, I don't know what the architect was on when he designed the buildings, but they just look like a bunch of affordable flats to me. And you'll find that's the same with most of the flats along the River Thames. All unaffordable. Now, if you take a look at the top of Oliver's Walk there, so you've got a nice sun balcony, sorry, a nice little roof balcony at the roof there. Now, that used to be where Cher lived. The singer Cher, the very famous star. Now, this company got into a little bit of bother a little while back because we kept on pointing out where Cher lived and stuff. And as you can imagine, eventually some people did start going around to the area trying to get a photograph. So she phoned up the office and made a complaint. But that was quite a long time ago, and she's moved away a bit further down the river. And I'll point it out to you when we get to it.
It's quite entertaining.
Now, despite the oh no, just before, we've got on the left here, just next to St John's Wharf, you have the Captain Kidd pub, named after the notorious pirate Captain Kidd. Now, if you're stuck for places to visit for lunch or dinner, it's quite a nice place. I've been there myself. Now, Captain Kidd met his untimely ends just here around Wapping through the notorious Judge Jeffreys. Judge Jeffreys was a famous judge, famous being able to have a convict to take the from his prison cell onto the hanging block and dead within about 5 minutes flat. But Captain Kidd was given the grace of Wapping, and that basically means you're hung over the River Thames, and they allow a tide to wash over your body 4 times. It's called the grace of Wapping, folks.
Mayflower.
It's called the Mayflower Pub. Now, the weather vane on top of there is a boat in the shape of the Mayflower. And that's where the founding fathers met up before they started their pilgrim journey across the pond towards America. Now that pub's got 3 different licences, by the way. It's got a licence to sell alcohol and 2 different licences to sell UK and American stamps. Now the reason that it looks so dirty is because it is a mud-based river and the tide on the Thames goes in and comes out twice a day. And with all the industrial and commercial traffic going across the top, it churns up all the mud and that's what gives it its brown appearance. But if you were to get a pint glass and scoop up some of the Thames water and leave it for a minute or so, I assure you all the mud would sink to the bottom and the water left on top would be crystal clear. And it actually says on the Thames Water website that you can drink it. You may have to chew some of it, but they say that you won't get ill. Now just on your left you have these red buildings that sort of resemble a child's Lego design. Now it's actually quite a clever design. If you've noticed, every single balcony and window of those flats has a riverside view. Quite clever, makes them all just that little bit more expensive to own. Now that area is called Free Trade Walk, and back when it was a working walk, it looked nothing like that. Back when London was hit by the plague, no other nation would trade with us. They are all too scared to sail down the River Thames in fear of catching the plague. Now there was one nation that did brave the journey, and they were the Dutch. I think this is where we get the saying, Dutch courage, but they would come no further than that area, just over there. And so out of respect to them, and out of gratitude to them, we gave them free trading rights on the River Thames, and we renamed the walk Free Trade Walk in their honour. Now on your left you've got the Lighthouse Marina entrance, and that small building just to the left of the entrance there used to be the old dockmaster's house. Back when London was a working dock area, the dockmaster would have lived in there and he would have raised the bridge for any boats that needed to pass through. But it is now owned by a very famous Scottish chef who's called Gordon Ramsay. So if you want to go eat in one of Gordon Ramsay's restaurants, you can do so just over there. Again folks, just on your left, you can just about see the writing of the Grapes pub, just next to those 2 wine buildings. Now can you all see that yellow statue? Well just look to the right of it and you see those large windows. Well that is none other than Sir Ian McCallum's house, or one of them at least. He bought the house just over there in Wapping many years ago when he was a young actor. Quite a good buy, it's worth many millions now. And he actually used to drink the Grapes pub quite often. One of his favourite locals. And quite a few years ago they were actually going to sell that pub for, as you could probably guess it, another unaffordable flat. Now Sir Ian McCallum was quite unhappy about this news, so he took it upon himself to purchase the flat, and he's now the owner of the Grapes pub. And if you go in there, you can actually see Gandalf's staff on the wall behind the bar. And just to our left hand side now folks, you have the Canary Wharf Financial District, founded by 2 Canadian brothers. Now the most iconic building there with the pointed roof isn't called Canary Wharf, it's actually called 1 Canada Square. The whole area that it sits on is actually called the Isle of Dogs. Now if you look in between these 2 buildings, just as we go past, you can just about see the tips of the yellow cranes of the O2 Arena. Now sadly we're not going to make it round there today, as it is beyond Greenwich, and we don't have time to punch against the tide and make it all the way round there for you to see. So this is about as much of it as you are going to see, I'm afraid, today. And we're now just gone around the bend folks, and we're entering what I like to call Windy Reach. I like to call this Windy Reach just because there's quite a strong breeze that comes down here. Now you may notice from this point onwards that there's not a lot of interesting things to talk about. A lot more unaffordable flats that I don't really want to keep mentioning, and a bit more of an industrial site elsewhere. So I'm going to leave you in peace, give your ears a little bit of a rest. But as we go around the bend, folks, so we get Greenwich in sight, I will get back to you with a little bit more information about the area and a bit more about the times of the boats and when we're going to leave. Position for the boats to bring back the tea from across seas. The first boat back would indeed get the very best trade prices. And the Katy Sark is one of the best. And if you go and visit it today, you'll see that it's got a copper sheeped hull. And this is to stop the planks of the boat from corroding and having to maintain it more often than they needed to. Also, you've got the Greenwich Naval College there, with the famous painted ceiling inside, free to enter. If there's anything you do at Greenwich, please go and visit the Greenwich Naval College. It is one of the best things you can do for nothing.
I think we did that.
Did you?
I think when I was, yeah.
And as I'm sure some of you will be doing already on a lovely day like this, we highly recommend you walk through Greenwich Park, one of the Queen's Parks.
Take that.
You've got the Greenwich Observatory at the top there, quite a steep climb to the top though, as any of you that have done it before.